Hello dear friends. We are returning to our series of stories about Romania, about Bucharest. In today's video I'll tell you about famous area of Bucharest, namely about the old town and the historical center, Bucharest city. Despite that you can get into the old historical city from different streets, one of which is Calea Victoria. For today's route we chosen starting point, University Hotel Intercontinental. This is a very famous place in the city of Bucharest. This is where we will begin our story today. I'll tell you a little about this building of the University of Bucharest. This building was built in 1864 year. But the history of the University of Bucharest takes us far in history. The so-called Voivodeship Academy in 1690, the fourth year, when opposite the university there are statues of Spiritualitas, George Lazer and Ioan Hilioda Dulescu, who are the founders. Modern Romanian educational system. There is also a statue of Mihai Vegioza here, one of the most famous Romanian howling waters, managed to reunite, which in 1599, Moldova and Transylvania, all three historical Romanian provinces of Allahu. Considering that in the old center there were also located voivodeship chambers, about 1600 here, the trade zone began to develop. The shops, guest houses, merchants began to appear. Shops began to appear, who brought goods from different parts of the world. One of these corners of the world was near the city of Leipzig, because in the transcription the city of Leipzig was written as, and it was the city of Leipzig that gave its name to Lipsken Street, Lipska. And we have a street with petals, which is the most famous street. Old Town. Other streets are called Shellet, that is Sharnikov Street. There is also Gabrovan Street, which is named after the city of Gabrova, from which goods were also transported here. But in the future, simultaneously with the development of the city, they began. And banks check. In a beautiful bank building, I already told you the check. Banks appear. On Ripskania Street, we are already located in the building from the National Bank of Romania. In our video about Victoria's theses, the bank building was built in 1880. French architects. And the new Bank Palace, located on the other side. The same ones who built the French Opera. Construction was started in 1940, but lasted for more than 10 years, due to lack of labor as a consequence of the war. 4. Socialist period of development of Romania. This is the area of the old town that has been preserved. Your trading orientation, so to speak. There were a lot of different shops located here. Workshop shops. And unfortunately, which happened in 1947, there are a lot of houses in this area, after nationalization, lost their owners. And these houses were illegally occupied by gypsies, as a result of which some of them, they looked simply terrifying. To date, the old town area is pedestrian zone, which contains a lot good beautiful restaurants, summer terraces, beautiful hotels, and just beautiful buildings. One of these buildings, to this day it is, so-called guest house with linden trees, which have survived, built in 1833, divided by a large avenue from the historical city, although it is part of it is a church. From this George, in which the Romanian broadsword commander was buried. Constantin Bengobianu, with his sons, innocently voluminous, and today they are saints of the Romanian Orthodox Church. Well further down the street, Shipcar that is, along the street of Hatters, we are going down to St. Anton's Square. There are 3 tourist sites in this square. This, St. Anton's Church. These are ruins, former voivodeship chambers, and this is Honol Manak. That is, Manaka Manakiana Guest House. Given the proximity, Church of St. Anton to the Voivode's Palace. She served for a long period of time as churches for the coronation of all governors in Wallachia. It also served as a treasury for the Voivode's Palace. Located, as I already said, near this church. Unfortunately, Bucharest cannot boast of that. As for today, the Voivode's palaces have arrived. Some chambers remain. Some ruins. Currently underway. Restoration work. As much as possible, because of what's left. Nevertheless, it is a very interesting object for tourists. And I recommend you to visit it. Although you have to rise a little because of the fence, to see something here. And the third object, which I was talking about, and which has survived to this day, more or less, in the form in which it was originally built. This is Honuli Manak Kon Paramansky. This is a guest house. Construction of the building was completed in 1808. It contained 15 cellars, 23 stores to large salons, 10 warehouses and 107 guest rooms. In 1812, the Peace of Bucharest was signed in this guest house, which completed Russian-Turkish War 1806-1812. Today there are restaurants in the building. Cafes open. Shops are open. In the building you can just visit for historical interest. A lot of historical films were filmed in the building. And sometimes you watch films and see the familiar outline of this building. Well, walking further, we've reached another famous street of the old town. This is Stavropolia Street. And on this street, located one of the most famous restaurants in Bucharest. This is a Karacuba, that is, a cart with beer. I'm talking about this restaurant. Already said in my previous video about Victoria's feces. Nevertheless, I will tell you a little about it now. The restaurant was built in 1899. One from brewers who moved to Bucharest from Transylvania. The restaurant was known back in the times of Sozas. Musicians met here. Artists met. If you want to, today to get to this restaurant, you need to reserve your seat at the same time. Because everyone is a guest in Bucharest, and the residents of Bucharest, they definitely want to come here. I don't know. The restaurant seems inexpensive to me. Very good beer. They say they produce it themselves, so I wish you a nice pastime. Next place, which you should visit if you are in the old town. This is the church of the Stavropolis Monastery. Where does the name of this street come from? Stavropolisis in Romanian means city. Cross from Greek. Today there is a monastery here. Several mothers. They serve and live here. And monasteries. Works. Conference hall. You can also visit here. Collection of old icons from the early 18th century. Dear friends, we are getting closer to the end of our today's story. Nevertheless, I would like to tell you about two more objects today. of which this is a historical building, in which at the beginning there was a stock exchange. The building is called the Palace of the Exchange, and its construction began in 1907. Since 1955, was located here, National Bibliotek of Romania, before Biblioteki Moving Day. Their building was specially built for this. Well, at the end, but last but not least, I want to tell you about the Russian church and in Bucharest. This is the Church of St. Nicholas the Wonderworker, built on site, which was donated by the Romanian government. Church built in 1905. And the cost of building this church was 600,000 gold rubles. Times of the First World War, the church was closed, and worship was resumed here in 1921. To date, church is part of the Jurovdici Romanian Orthodox Church, and given its proximity to the university, unofficially considered a student church. Dear friends, that's it for us. We are approaching the end of our story today. Thank you all so much for watching. We hope you found the information valuable. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more helpful content like this.